So, this is my husband. For those of you that didn't know. Because you never come out in any of the videos. Anyway, I was asked a question about how does the Santa Muerte practice come together with the rest of the family, right? And so rather than me explain it, and rather than me give my biased perspective on how I see everything, I'd much rather him explain his position and where he sits and what he thinks about when I'm doing all of my stuff.
I mean, to me, it's very simple. She has her thing, I have mine. Our beliefs don't collide. They don't always necessarily get along together or represent the same thing, but there's no conflict there. I will support her in whatever it is that she does. As long as she doesn't burn the house down with the candles.
So far, so good.
I don't have any problems with what she does. And there's no, like I said, there's no conflict between the two.
But he helps. He built what's supposed to be the shrine in the backyard. It's a shed, but it's supposed to be an area specific to that practice. He built it with his bare hands. You know, he even, got money out of his own pocket to put towards it. He's helped me build, he's actually built it himself. All of the shelves, I move stuff around a lot in this house, right?
Yeah.
And he has personally built it. And he pretty much supports, everything that I'm doing, even though it does not coincide with his personal beliefs. His personal beliefs are almost, I'm not going to say opposite, but, he's coming from a polytheistic point of view, whereas I'm more pantheistic. If nobody knows what that means, pantheistic means essentially all is one, where polytheism is many. So,
Hear the big words again.
Yeah. So basically, he's of a Nordic standpoint, where he kind of honors the Nordic deities, however you want to pronounce it. And where I come from, I still, unfortunately, have a lot of Catholic in me. So this is kind of where our beliefs will understand each other. He understands my need for a multitude of statues, and I understand his position on a multitude of gods, basically. And I understand that he's honoring his ancestry, not that he, has any position on, for example, it's only this and nothing else. No, it's his choice. It's what he feels comfortable with, and he understands that I am doing the same. And even though we both have beef with the church, we are also both understanding that everybody does their own thing, and that we both have a past with the church. So, which is why we have beef with it. But he understands, and I would say he does his practice kind of more privately than I do, whereas I advertise it to everybody. He is more private and more selective of his time with his, I wouldn't even call it a practice. It's not a religion either. A lifestyle, I guess. That's more his thing. His is more of a lifestyle. Mine is more of, it's a lifestyle, but it's more of a practice, and I advertise it to everybody. And he's quiet about it.
Well, not everybody has to practice. Some of us.
True. That's true.
Doing are good at it. We don't have to practice anymore.
Thanks. Yeah. I'll have you know doctors practice.
Yeah.
Anyway, look what I got. This was what was it, Walgreens? CVS. And it's not Day of the Dead stuff. I was specifically restricted from Day of the Dead stuff. And this, I can roll And I personally haven't seen any that have the hands praying. You just usually see the scary reaper. It's hardly ever with the hands praying. So I was like, oh, get it for me. And he got it for me. See? Supportive. But is there anything else?
No.
There's a lot of people watching. So, is there anything else you want to
Hi, a lot of people. No, I mean, it's she has hers, I got mine, and there's no conflicts. There's no butting heads.
So far, until I ask my questions. Now, and you're supposed to be 100% honest.
I haven't lied yet.
Okay. So when it comes to me doing stuff with the candles and with the herbs and all that other stuff, how much stock do you put into it being real? Honestly.
I don't think it matters what I think about it.
Nah, that's the cop-out answer.
No, it's not a cop-out answer. No. That is your practice. That is your belief. It doesn't matter what I believe. It's the same as if you ask any other person out there about that. Just because they don't validate it doesn't mean it's not valid to you or your practice or your belief.
You always got to give that neutral answer to be right. God.
Well, I am always right.
But answer honestly. Do you think that actually works?
Herbs have been used for centuries for all kinds of stuff, whether it is for purely religious reasons or for actual medical reasons. There's nothing that says it does not work.
Nice. A lot of people would have taken that answer 5 minutes ago, but not me.
Of course not. Somebody has to keep digging and digging.
That's what I do. And how do you personally feel about that spirit? What's your position? Do you think that that's a goddess? Do you think that that's some kind of like intermediary angel? Do you think that it's actual death? Do you think nothing at all? What do you think?
I think that is yours.
But I'm trying to get your standpoint.
What?
Because well, if you ask me about those Nordic gods, I'm going to give you what I think, what I perceive them to be.
Okay, so. But your perception doesn't necessarily mean that is what I see it as.
Okay.
The same with my perceptions of what you do. That just because it's my perception doesn't mean that is what it is.
Just answer the fucking question. What do you? I mean, I have this huge fucking altar. There's all these people that follow it. Mm-hmm. There's all this controversy behind it. Nobody wants to cop in the valley. Nobody wants to cop up to the fact that they have these altars. What do you think it is? Do you think it's all suggestion? Do you think that it's an actual spirit that's interceding on these people's lives? Do you think that it's a fucking demon? Do you? Because there's people who think it's a demon. So what do you think?
Me personally, I think it is much older than what people make it out to believe. If you're looking at it, this is going to, Santa Muerte, it's coming out of Mexico. Mexico having been predominantly Catholic. Mm-hmm. I think that the remnants of Mexico's native religion started mixing with Catholicism, like it does in every country, where it carries over aspects of such.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Sorry, you know my deal. Anyway.
It's always been known that the Catholic Church has adopted, even the Christian Church, Christianity in general has adopted local folklore, local religions, local beliefs into the church to attract more people. And you look in many cultures, you will always have a saint of the dead, Santa Muerte, the angel of death, the Grim Reaper. You will always have some sort of a representation of the dead in one way or the other, and it's just starting to surface back out and re-separating from Christianity.
So how do you think a death saint is gonna be helping people with material things? How do you think that connection exists? Because for people that it has worked for, upon first glance, you try to make the correlation and you think, how the hell does death give me money to pay my rent? What do you think the connection is?
On the academic side, I don't have an answer to that because I don't have any research on it. I have not studied this. I would imagine if you have a connection to a saint of the dead, that means that you're having a connection with those that are dead, particularly those that are in your ancestry, those that came before you. I don't see why they would not have an influence on you or this world to make such things happen.
So you think that they have a big part, not only her, but that they are interceding as well, just under the guise of a saint death, and the people just don't know? Or
I can see that as being a possibility. And again, it's not something that I have studied. It's not something that I have researched.
Interesting.
But I don't see why that would not be possible.
I've made several videos in the past about, keeping up with your relatives, because they're probably going to be the closest to you, and if you're calling on somebody, if you need something, you found no other avenue, then they would probably be the best to call on. I mean, they are your blood.
I mean, so. In my belief, the veneration for your ancestors is a big part of that. Especially once you start looking at getting into the winter times, when we are closer to those that have died. I don't want to necessarily use the atypical language on the veil is thinner and all that good stuff.
But people recognize that.
But it's the winter time is when a lot of the holidays come around, where you are venerating your ancestors and you talk with your ancestors. That bridge between here and there seems to be shorter, less complicated to get through.
Mm-hmm.
So them being able to help us in this life, I can see a very strong possibility of that happening.
Very good. Yeah. So that's why in a lot of, I'm not going to say pagan practices, because the Catholics do it too. The Catholics, everybody knows that the Catholics, at least deep in Mexico, not so much in the United States so much anymore, they have their, like in the movie Coco, they have the whole
Sure.
Ritual for Day of the Dead. But how do you do it? Yours is still more private.
It is, because it's a one-on-one between you and your ancestors. I don't go out and I don't advertise what I do. I don't make it public what I do. That is a private matter between me and them. Whether it is me leaving offerings for them or just talking to them, particularly my mother or my grandmother,
right,
or my grandfather.
Whereas I like to advertise everything.
Sure.
That's what we do.
I think the important part is that people need to realize that some of these beliefs that are starting to separate from the church are much older than the Catholic Church itself. I think people also need to realize that the Catholic Church that you find in Mexico is definitely not the Catholic Church that you find in the United States, or for that matter, the Catholic Church that you will find in Europe. I grew up in Germany. Half my friends were Catholic, the other half were Protestant. I attended both services, both churches. And there's no comparison between the Catholic Church here, the Catholic Church in Germany, and the Catholic Church in Mexico, or even the Catholic Church here at the border.
You can get it. I can pause it.
Nah, let it ring.
Okay.
And a lot of that is the reflection of where the church is at the time, because they will adopt local customs and local beliefs to aid in the conversion of the local populace.
Mm-hmm.
what you saw in Europe was they used two different methods of converting the people. One was by the sword. If you didn't convert, you died. And the church adopting local practices and local religions and molding them into Christianity, into Catholicism, by making comparisons between some of the deities that exist and saying
Saint Bridget.
that they're saints and all kinds of stuff. And over the generations, it just became a actual belief that this is part of Christianity, when in reality it really isn't.
So, folk Catholicism versus the more modernized version of Catholicism. What is your viewpoint on that? Because a lot of the people that have these altars in their house, a lot of them are more folk Catholics, meaning that they're not going to abide by the same laws as the church, but they still consider themselves Catholic.
Sure, and again, it's the old beliefs again coming out and re-separating from Catholicism. You're also looking at, and Christianity is really good with this, with not only converting but keeping people out of pure fear. Mm-hmm. You're either with us or you will burn in hell for eternity. Totally ridiculous, but it still works. I see that in the people that follow my belief as well. They're having this really, really hard time getting away from Christianity because it is so ingrained in them with fear of eternal damnation that they have a really hard time letting go of that. That's where I see the folk Catholicism coming from. They want to move away from it. They know there's something other than Catholicism, but the fear of getting away from that is really, really strong.
Yep. Which makes an easier transition to the Santeria and all of that stuff, because you're still incorporating the saints, but you're also embracing pagan gods and stuff like that. Well, they're not really gods, but you know what I mean.
Sure, but people have a really hard time letting go of that safety net, that just in case they don't burn in hell for eternity.
How long did it take you?
It took a few years. It really took a while to get rid of that.
So, just how do you you have a moral system that your belief system molded, or was this remnants from previously being part of the church, or is it something you just picked up as common sense throughout your life?
I wouldn't necessarily call it common sense, but I think as you go through life, you start figuring out what is, I don't want to necessarily say right and wrong, but that is more of it's a correct decision to make. Any decision that you make that's going to hurt you or your family or your kin is obviously not the right decision to make, so it's probably something to stay away from. There are no set rules of what is right and what is wrong. You do what you do, and you have to deal with the consequences of that, whether those consequences are negative or positive.
And since there's no eternal damnation in your belief system, is there any kind of reward system? I know the answer, but I'm asking you. Is there any kind of reward system? Is there any kind of compensation for being a better person? Or in your belief system, why does a person live their life the way they do if they're not going to have some kind of reward or punishment system in place like a lot of the religions do now?
Wow, talk about a loaded question. This is going to take forever to answer.
Meanwhile, I'm going to get your cup that says I am my deeds.
Yeah. So in the Nordic beliefs, we have I want to call it a problem, but we have an issue because the belief predates written languages. There is not that much in writing that we can go by, and not much writing that is still from the original source. The Eddas, which is I don't want to say it's the primary source of information, but a lot of people use it as the primary source of information, and and unfortunately,
I'll save that as the screen thing.
unfortunately, a lot of people will consider that their Bible, which it's not, because there's so much more still out there.
The Eddas were a group of stories, or a bunch of stories that were like folklore.
A priest in Iceland wrote down the stories, and these are folktale stories, sayings, and he combined them into a book. You have the same in a poetic form and one that's not quite poetically written. Now, with that said, there are other sagas out there, other stories of individuals that lived during that time. A lot of them are found in Iceland. Unfortunately, there is not a whole lot of information there about the afterlife. There are some examples of what could happen, but not nearly all-encompassing.
The different worlds.
There are different worlds, there are different realms where different gods come from, where there are different, I guess you could call species that live there, which none of those worlds should be considered the afterlife, because according to the sagas and everything and the Eddas, there are places that exist right now, right here. But again, when it comes to the afterlife, we don't have that many examples of that. The prime example, that the first thing that will pop up when you talk to people about the Norse belief, is Valhalla.
Valhalla.
There are so many misconceptions about what Valhalla is and how to get there. There's people that say, oh, because you're courageous, you go there, and which is not true. It is fairly outlined and dictated exactly how it is that one gets there. But that only applies to a very small percentage of those that follow this belief. So the way that most of us look at it is, I will take care of me and mine here. Once this is done with, it is the gods that are to take care of us, and then it will be in their hands. But this life, right now, right here, is for us to dictate how we live and how we succeed and what we do. We let the gods worry about everything else that comes in the hereafter.
And from his understanding, right, their gods are not going to be interacting in your life, making just little decisions for you.
We don't ask our gods to help with anything. If you read the Eddas, if you read the stories, you will see a lot of times where, when the gods were involved with something, it did not necessarily turn out to be what the people asked for. Again, do it yourself. Don't involve the gods unless you absolutely have to, just because you may not end up with what it is that you thought you were asking for.
I'm trying to think of something else. I'm trying to not go off on a tangent because I do that a lot.
Yeah, I think we're already there.
Okay, well, I just wanted to, because, how does everybody get along with doing this? And then Merrick, well, My son doesn't know too much about his practice because, as stated, he keeps it kind of private. Me, on the other hand, I'm loud about mine. So my son will go up to the altar. He'll look at the candles burning. Gets all excited and starts flapping his hands. Or he'll look at the incense smoke and see it doing all its little whirls and stuff like that. Get all excited. But there are some times where he'll be eating a Kit Kat or a donut or something, and he'll say, "Mommy, I want to give it to the skeleton lady." Now, lots of people insist that autistic kids are, special and stuff like that, but I don't know about them, but my kid is very materialistic. He lives on this plane of existence. He seems to only worry about what makes him feel good and what makes him happy, and he doesn't really seem to be concerned about too much else. So I figure that when he goes over there and he's watching things, he's just literally watching the candles or the incense smoke or whatever. But on those odd days that he says, "I want to put this on that altar," I think he might be doing it because he's witnessed me do it. And he just knows that it would make me happy. And he knows that it's kind of a fun thing to do. Now, he's only 11 years old. I'm pretty sure if he had any kind of foot in the other world or whatever, I would have seen something. There are a few occasions where he just laughs out of nowhere, or he'll be kind of talking to himself. But I don't know if that's his autism or what. But he has been saying at night that, he's getting scared of the dark. When he watches movies on TV, I don't intentionally force him to watch anything that's particularly scary or anything like that. Anything that he watches is going to be of his own choice. That's right?
Sure.
So he's not really aware of necessarily what scary monsters or scary ghosts or anything like that. If he is, it's his own preconceived notion. So when he tells me at night that he's scared of the dark or that he saw something, I have every reason to believe that what he's telling me is happening at the moment, or something that he's not going to lie. That's that kid. The only thing he lies about is
things that will get him in trouble.
Things that will, get him in trouble, or like a method of getting his tablet back, or getting in trouble for not doing a chore or something like that. But he is not going to sit there and lie to me about seeing a scary monster or seeing a ghost or anything like that. He's got no reason to. So if that were the case, I think I would know about it. But as far as I'm aware, he hasn't really mentioned much. So I think that's his position. So his position, with his belief system is pretty much non-existent because, they don't really talk about it. And also my son is mentally like 7 years old, so I don't think he's of the mindset to really have too much of an interest anyway. And then with me, I think he does it because it's repetition. If he does anything, it's because of what he witnesses and what he sees as repetition. So that's pretty much, I think, where he stands on the whole subject.
In Merrick is fairly simple to figure out. He sees something and looks like fun, he is going to do it.
Right.
And if it's not fun, he's definitely not going to do it.
He's a Taurus sun. He's very simplistic. So he cares about food and luxury and pretty women, and that's about all he cares about in his technology. So he's not going to show much interest in religion or spiritual stuff, I don't think, until way older. So, and it's not going to be because I'm going to force him. And it's not going to be because he's going to force him. It's going to be because he wants to do it. So, yep. Well, I think that's good, yeah?
Yeah.
Half an hour. Not bad.
Wow.
Yeah, we talk a lot.
You guys are lucky. I don't do this.
Yeah, he doesn't do this at all, so this is going public whether he likes it or not. All right, well, I'm going to turn it off, so. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, you didn't tell him your name. Did I tell him your name?
The better half.
Yeah, okay. His name's Robert.